Give a warm welcome to Mr. Bright.
I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. When I got involved in politics, it was really tough for me. You know, public speaking was something that I did not desire to do. I kind of wanted to be behind the scenes, just make a living and move on. But I got involved. I felt like I was led to do it. And my wife and I talk about it from time to time, and she says, you know, is it worth it? And I think it is because of my wife and my kids and the kind of world, the kind of country, and kind of state we want to live in. I think that the government is way too much into our lives. I think it spends way too much of what we earn. I think that the core to the problem is that folks will say and do whatever they can to get elected. And sometimes when you tell the truth, it doesn't make people happy. And we've got dire times. Our state retirement system is in a mess. That was kind of the focus. You know, we've got the budget coming up, but what's really caught my attention is the fact that these folks have been disqualified from the ballot. To me, that's the most sacred part. I mean, people have fought, bled, and died for that ballot access. And a technicality, I have no problem with how the Supreme Court ruled. I think they ruled on the law, and that's their job. And as strict constructionists and constitutionalists, we have to stand behind that. But I think there's something that can be done, and we're going to make the attempt tomorrow. It's going to be a heavy lift. But, you know, incumbents obviously want to be reelected. I mean, that's, if they're running for re-election, that's what they want. But we should also want to be a fair system. If John Hawkins wants to run for the state senate and he did everything he believed that he was supposed to do at the time, I want him in the race. I mean, I just think that's right. That's the American way, and I want to do everything I can to get these challengers back in these races. There's so much effort been put into it, so much time. I mean, I've been there. I know what time it takes, and I just want to appreciate them for their efforts and energy. It's a thankless job. I had a guy tell me the other day, he said, he was thinking about running for the House, actually, and he asked me about it, and I said, well, if you want everything that you've ever done to be turned against you, then you should do it. If your core beliefs are more important than what people say about you, then obviously you should do it. And I'm sad to say he didn't do it. He counted the cost, and everybody that runs for office needs to count the cost. But what I believe in is way more important than me, the future of my family, the future of my neighbors, my friends, the folks that come out and wave the signs and walk the districts and take a part in this thing, this great thing that we call America. So I'm down there trying to fight the conservative battle. I've voted against every budget since I've been down there. I put up amendments we can't win. We've got folks that are Republicans that go down there and vote with the Democrats. And they do that because we've done a good job as Republicans, and we've created Republican majorities in the electorate. So you can't win as a Democrat. So you got folks that kind of lean towards the Democrat Party, but they run as Republicans because they want to win. And I've got to say that, you know, folks that run as Democrats and are Democrats, I admire them for running on their platform. But folks that will kind of go on both sides, and, you know, I hate that happens, but it's the process. You folks get to decide. It's your Senate seat, not mine. And I just ask for you to give me another 4 years to serve. Thank you.
Mr. Hawkins has, Mr. Bright, Mr. Hawkins has made some accusations against you concerning the Holly Springs Fire District. Are you aware of these accusations, and would you please respond?
I'd be glad to respond. I believe that loyalty is the most important thing besides honor. My honor's been attacked. But I had a talk with our sheriff, and our sheriff told me that at a party, Lee Jeffcoat told him he was going to see to it that furniture store was put out of business. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I had a little old man come to me in tears telling me that he had been harassed because he was against the tax increase. And Mike McClure did not want Lee Jeffcoat fired. He just wanted to be left alone and run his business. But with the Hometown News, who I think one of their reporters had a little perjury issue during the case, is from the reports I've seen.
Got a big perjury problem.
But yet, it was the narrative. And here's the narrative. And the new reporter of the Herald Journal is not a part of this narrative. He has been nothing but fair with me. I've enjoyed getting to meet him. But the Herald Journal does not want Lee Bright in the state senate. I can tell you that right now. Channel 7 does not want Lee Bright in the state senate.
Thank you, Lee. Down the Herald Journal. Down the Herald Journal.
If you want to see what it's like when the media picks your elected officials, we've got one called Barack Hussein Obama. Now, we got voting rights acts that we have to deal with. We've got to please the federal government. It's not up to us. I don't agree with the Voting Rights Act. I think, let me tell you, I think this issue of racism that they try to point on South Carolina is beyond us. I mean, look at Tim Scott.
Yeah.
I mean, you look, it breaks my heart to see that folks want to divide us when we're united on race. I mean, we're all God's creatures. And I hate that, but that's what the federal government does. They've been sticking it to us on every issue. You know, no matter what we pass, we've got to worry about the federal government. But, and I do want to, you know, and I think former Senator Hawkins, he can bring up issues, and I think that's part of the spirited debate. But when you talk about taking campaign money, I just want to stand with Ronald Reagan, who I believe is the forebearer of this movement. And Ronald Reagan took money from the Log Cabin Republicans, which was a homosexual group. And he said, they give me money because they agree with me. I don't take the money because I agree with them.
There you go.
This next month is going to be a tough fought campaign. I have a very capable adversary in Senator Hawkins when it comes to being on the opposite side of the ballot. And I expect that it's going to be a tough race, and I'm going to do what I can. But at the end of the day, my wife Amy is still going to be there. My children are still going to be there. Many of you are my friends are still going to be there. I believe that God is in total control. If it's God's will for John Hawkins to be the next senator, then I'm going to pray for him on June 13th, because that's what God tells me to do. But we're going to have a little discussion between now and then. I have fought for life. The Senate has been in deadlock twice over fighting for unborn children. And when you talk about reform, I think the fundamental right to life is something that we ought to recognize to begin with. I mean, that is just, it bothers me greatly that we as a society don't recognize the unborn children and don't give them any rights, but yet we worry about whales being on display, and we've debated just countless issues to give rights to animals and nature, but we don't protect the unborn. So that's something I've been fighting for. People are struggling in the state. Everybody is trying to make ends meet. I think folks worry a lot about whether the government has enough money, but we don't seem to worry about whether families have enough money. And there's such a struggle going on now, and the government just continues to grow, that our government folks feel so entitled, you know, to the earnings of others. And it's just a struggle to stop that. You know, as far as reform goes, we don't have the numbers to get real reform. We don't have a conservative Senate. We have a Republican Senate, but we don't have a conservative Senate. The problem is we elect folks that tell us one thing up here and then go do the opposite down there. We're going to have some help. I mean, all we can do is try to, you know, hold off the surge. But I mean, we are outnumbered and overran. We've got the Democrats. You have some Democrats that vote more conservative than Republicans. And it's saddening, but to get real reform, I mean, a lot of folks, we passed some bills that have moved in the positive direction, but we definitely don't even have half the loaf. So I'm hoping that we get some help coming up. You know, the problem's the Senate. We need some new folks in there, and hopefully in some of these Democrat seats, maybe we'll get a little more conservative Democrat than what we have now. I mean, Phil Levinas is, you know, Senator Levinas fought us on Born Alive and some very just issues that would just make common sense. But we've got some folks that would rival Nancy Pelosi down there in the South Carolina Senate. So if we can get some common sense in it, maybe we can get some real reform. But right now, you know, you're looking at 12 to 16 senators on your best day, and you got a total of 46. So.
Our country's facing the biggest deficit, you know, we've ever had in the past. There's a chance that our dollar could plummet in value. Today and in the future, what are we going to do as a state to make sure that we have access to sound money?
Okay.
What is your plan for it?
Who want Mr. Bright go first?
I sponsored a bill basically for a study committee. I know Jim DeMint had spoken about it, and I know it gets a lot of chuckles because people claim that you want to print your own currency. But I feel like we need to have a plan. I mean, our federal government, our state government should have contingencies for about everything. And that's something that, it sounds strange at first, but let's go back to the bailouts. They told our congressmen and senators if they didn't vote for the bailout, there was a potential that people would go to the teller machine, put their card in, and nothing come out. Now, maybe it's crazy to plan for something that could be so devastating. I had several people come to me and say, you know, you shouldn't have sponsored this. This is kind of fringe. You know, this is making us nervous. And I brought that same analogy, and they said, well, if the Federal Reserve collapses, we're all finished anyway. Well, I just don't know if that's what I want to tell my children, and many of you want to tell your grandchildren if there's some kind of collapse that we're finished anyway. It was a bill simply for a study committee. It's something that a lot of folks were interested in. We didn't spend any time debating on it because it got demonized so quickly by the media. But it's something that Jim DeMint's talked about, and a lot of folks at the federal level. You know, they're concerned, I'm concerned, and I just think it's, you know, I think we need to have a plan. And if you have a study committee that doesn't spend any money, that just meets and gives you ideas. And one of my guys at my church said, I wish you hadn't have done that. And I said, that's great. I'll put you on the study committee and you can argue with them and tell them we don't need it. So, I mean, I just think it was something that's kind of got blown way out of proportion. We didn't spend any time on the Senate floor with it. But I do think that, you know, at $16 trillion, I really don't know I don't think our federal government has a plan. And they're not even printing the money. I didn't know this, but they're not printing the money. It's just digital. It's on a computer screen. The paper doesn't even exist. At least the Germans could burn the paper. I mean, we don't even have that. So it's a scary situation, and to say that it's crazy to try to have some kind of contingency plan, I think I don't think that's reasonable. The media has a lot of power. I mean, the media can. I had several senators want to co-sponsor that bill, and as soon as Channel 7 showed up and talked about printing, and they got on the Confederate money deal and all this kind of stuff, and just demonized it, they all came back and said, "No, I don't want to do it." So that's how a lot of things are driven by the media. A lot of the issues are media driven.
Mr. Hawkins was talking about things being fact and documented. And, I don't want no words that you said. But you can go on fitchnews.com. I read a little article on Mr. Hawkins, and I think everybody will go on that computer and look that up and see what kind of man he really is. Things on earth is fact and documented.
It is not.
Actually, my mom told me about the
That is.
Yeah, I'm trying the same thing, and I'm from up north.
Well, what is
Anyway, thank y'all for being here.
it is the truth.
How do you know? Were you there?
Ask Mr. Hawkins.
I have.
He said he's a man of the Lord.